What's up, everybody? That time of the day, that time of the week, that time of the month.
Once again,
you're listening to the good,
the band,
the ugly. I'm Big Papa.
I'm just Jeff.
I'm just Big Papa.
He's just Big Papa.
I forgot. It was our shtick today.
It was.
Yeah, just be the Justs.
Yep, the Justs.
All right, let's just slide this music out and make sure it slides out nice and easy.
Yes.
All right. So, boy, are we excited?
Absolutely.
This is one we've been counting down.
Yep.
We've been counting down.
He was actually one of the first ones that we ever mentioned about.
We did when we started booking this stuff.
Yes.
We were excited to reach out because not only is this gentleman a great guy individually, but he's a great musician, and everybody knows him.
Yeah,
they all know him.
They do.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Mr. Just Joe.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I don't know if he heard the yawn.
but
now
I heard it.
He heard it. Cool.
But Jeff is very excited that you're here. There you go. All right. Yeah. Well, suck
great.
it, Rick. Just chilling. Yeah, we have sound effects.
Rick. Poor Rick.
You know what, Joe? We're going to be best friends after this.
Yep.
I love it. We have a ball busting session between us and Rick all the time, but we love the guy. So, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
No problem. You literally caught me in the middle of like a 20-day run. It's like my only day off until I don't know, next Wednesday or something like that.
Well, we appreciate that, and we'll make
man.
sure to when we see you buy you a nice vegan burger or something.
Oh, no, I'm not vegan.
Oh, I thought you're just wicked healthy, though.
I'm just healthy, but I still eat burgers.
Okay.
Atta baby.
Well, then we'll buy you a real burger.
Yes.
You can buy me a real burger. And I'm not Bill. Bill went total vegan.
Yeah.
Right.
He went vegan. Fuck that.
For the amount of animals that have to die for those like size 27 feet.
I know.
He's still wearing leather shoes. So,
Yeah.
You know.
Nice job, Bill.
Yeah, like it's either you got to go. I mean, I know some people that are all into that. I mean, my buddy Joel is part owner of Strong Hearts Cafe.
Love that place.
Him and I went to high school together, and that dude is full on and has been since like 1991, 90, somewhere around there. So that dude has been like, he's the only one I know that's like, he's in. He's bought right in, but
I will.
When I want a burger, I want one ingredient in that burger: meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meat.
Yeah. No filler. No garbage.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Give me a burger. So buy me a burger when you see me.
Happy to.
Good deal.
Happy to. I don't think I've seen you around. You don't have a piano strapped to your fingertips, but dude,
about it.
hardest working man in this area and in this business around here.
Yeah.
We're proud to say that we know you and that we respect you. So, we were not kidding when we introduced you that we were thrilled to have you on the show. We really were.
I know. I mean, we've been trying. I think when you first started doing this podcast, even a while back, was it even named this right away?
Well, when we had Billy Johnson and I had a different podcast called Dishing It Out.
Yes.
And we tried to get you on that one, and it was a great podcast, but there was no real direction to it.
Right.
It was just about having fun and goofing off and stuff. And it was our COVID filler. And then Jeff and I kind of put this together, and I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to any of the episodes, but what we're trying to do here is let people like to listen to stories. And if they're amongst, let's say, musicians sitting around and they're not a musician, they want to kind of be that fly on the wall.
I got stories, man.
Oh, I know you do.
Yeah, we are aware.
And we're just going to touch.
We're just going to touch the surface.
So I mean, without making it super long tonight, we can get right to some decent stories, man. I mean, that's one thing I love to tell a good story. So.
Well, and I think your story more than most, because you've seen both sides of it. You started off just answering an audition almost, not even knowing that you sang as well as you did.
Yep.
And had this like monster frickin' growly awesome voice in the beginning. and then all of a sudden, boom, he's in freaking Brand New Sin. You know, it's like, what just happened?
Yeah, it's been in September. It'll be 22 years since that.
Wow.
Since that band started, and 21 since the first record came out. So,
Wow.
And then to do a little plug, we're doing a reunion. I mean, we did a reunion show in 2019, so I don't know if this is another reunion show or just a show at this point, but we're going to do one December 2nd at the Westcott, and the tickets are going pretty quick. We announced it way early, but we also needed, as a band, like, hey, we need a lot of time to get ready for this because everybody's so busy in life,
Right.
you know. So,
Right.
But yeah, this journey's been, at least with my professional journey, has been, you know, now 22 years long, which blows my freaking mind, because I still feel, you know, even when I sit down, I had this conversation with Ronnie Lee a few weeks back, and Ronnie Lee's been doing this, I don't know, 50 years maybe?
Oh, at least. Yeah.
You know, Ronnie's a legend, and I still feel like I'm a kid. You know, I tell him that. I'm like, I still feel like I'm the new kid on the block. He's like, dude, because you've been doing this for over 2 decades. You're a wily old veteran. You just can't compare it to me because I'm old as dirt, you know. So, but I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm just, you know, this new kid on the block, you know. It's really weird.
It's pretty funny that you mentioned that, because, you know, my uncle's been a musician, or was a musician, still not anymore, but he played ever since I was, you know, since before me. I mean, I'm 56, so he played before me and played. And the last project he worked with he was the drummer / singer for Southern Comfort.
Yep.
So, and before that, he played in Ivory, Four of a Kind, a whole bunch. And I ran into Earl Hamilton the other night, and we started talking. I says, hey, my Uncle Joe DiUlio says hello. He says, holy Jesus, that's your uncle? I said, yeah. He goes, he played at our wedding, you know. And I'm like, holy shit, you know. So it doesn't matter what part of the era you come from. If you're a Syracuse musician, you always will be, you know. And you make those ties and connections, and you know.
Because I mean, I always followed the scene. Like when I was in high school, I grew up in Sumter Square, but I had no way to get to the Syracuse might have been New York City in distance wise, you know, back in the 80s and, you know, early 90s for me. I mean, my parents weren't going to drive me to the Lost Horizon, or like there's no way I could ride my bike, or, I mean, I lived on the North Shore of Sumter Square. So it's like, I lived on the North Shore of the lake. So it seemed so far away. So my only outlet to Syracuse music at that time was the Syracuse New Times and Soundcheck with Christina. So I got into that, and then, like, the first real band I think I fell in love with and realized, like, I was so proud they were from Syracuse was the Masters of Reality. And I was like, I never got to see them. I never got to see them in their heyday. But that band seemed so like mythical to me.
Yes.
And that was like the beginnings of it all. And it wasn't until I came back from college in 96. I went to college in Rochester, and I came back in 96, and I had a bunch of friends from Sumter Square that had a band called Jameis Breed. And at that time they were getting pretty big in the scene, and they were playing The Lost, they were playing Stylines, they were playing 505 and the Wolf Inn, and, like, you know, whole circuit there was going on at that time in the late 90s. And I just started being a roadie. I had no idea that I was going to end up where I ended up, you know?
Sure. Yeah. You know, you mentioned the Masters, and I'm fortunate enough because of my age that I was there watching the Masters play at the Lost, and just mesmerized back then by Chris, by just the iconic sound that he could achieve singing those songs. And I don't care if you put John Brown on right now or anything from that album, it's timeless. And and you could just listen to it and still fall in love with it. And I still see people that are like, oh, this band is the greatest band. I'm like, you have no idea how old that is, right? You know, but
I know.
Still crushing
I listen to that record at least once a month. And I mean, in what, 2008?
Yes.
2009, we did, myself and
this.
Bob Kane on drums, Bill Blanchard on keyboards, Chris Heel on guitar, Maurice from Chick Magnets on other guitar, and Jay Fabry on bass. And we created that entire first record. And we didn't just do the first record from start to finish. We did that, but we also got our hands on all the bootlegs, like the recordings of what
nice.
John Brown sounded like before Rick Rubin got it, or the extra verses in Kill the King. And we did that at the Landmark with Dracula Jones and Dead Rose.
I remember
it. Was so fun to, and it was so fun to dive into that, and I had so much fun just like putting my Chris Goss on and like getting up to do that. And, but the crazy story about the Masters that I really want to tell, other than that one, is one of our very first tours in Brand New Sin. We were out with a couple bands. One was Chimera, a metal band from Cleveland, and a band called 36 Crazy Fist that were actually from Anchorage, Alaska, but they had moved to Portland, Oregon after they got signed, just because, I mean, how the hell are you going to do anything living in Anchorage, Alaska?
Right.
Yeah. And we're in a hotel room in San Antonio on a day off, and we all had hotel rooms, hanging out, drinking beers, sitting down by the pool. There's like 4 bands on the tour. So there's like, 30 or 40 band dudes sitting around. I walked by the guitar player from 36 Crazy Fist in his room, and he had Masters of Reality cracking. Not Sunrise on the Super Bus, but, Blue Garden.
Right.
Masters of Reality. And I'm like, dude, what are you listening to? He's like, Masters of Reality, man. You ever heard of them? I'm like, we're from Syracuse. You know that, right? And he's like, holy shit. And we geeked out for like 5 hours. Like, we didn't hang out with anybody else. We just sat in the room talking Masters of Reality. He's like, he goes, it's my favorite band of all time. Tim Harrington, the guitar player, is the biggest influence on me all the time. And this is a kid that grew up in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah, right.
You know, so like, I think people forget. Well, we don't forget, but that band's I mean, they may have not got the due that they deserved, probably because they were either ahead of their time,
way ahead of their time,
maybe too fringy, or not. I guess, for lack of a better term, not dumb enough for consumption by the masses.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
So it might have been a little too cerebral, you know? So, but their influence on musicians, and especially like, I mean, Caius, and then that went to Queens of the Stone Age, and the band The Flies, Googe produced that song that was a one-hit wonder in the 90s, So their DNA, Syracuse's DNA, is in some very large pockets.
Chris was a producer for years. I mean, he was in England for a little while, and when he left Syracuse, I remember them talking before he left. They got a 90-second cameo in a movie, and we were all like, fucking friends of ours, it's in a movie, and it was
that was a Steven Seagal movie, right?
Exactly. They were playing in the background in the bar.
Marked for Death, maybe?
I think you may be right.
I think you might be right.
I think so. Yeah.
And I was new. I was a musician all my, since I was in middle school and elementary school, and sat down and played drums at Greg's when I was 10, so I always this is what I wanted to do, was be around this. And to see Chris at the Lost, and even to be able to share conversations with him a little bit, I felt like, that was the first, in my opinion, like rock star I met, even though he was Syracuse. Yeah. It's still to this.
I mean, that's a rock star. Rock star. I mean, it's a relative term.
Right.
It's
right. Yeah. And I tried to follow his career as much as I could. And then when he did the stuff in Europe and everything, I kind of lost touch. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have Google and all this other shit. And we talked about it the other day. Yeah. I said, if anybody, I wish there was a way I could find out how to reach out to and get him on this show. it would be Chris Goss. I mean, just because
I know he's pretty elusive, and I wish that I got a chance when he got inducted to the Syracuse Music Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And I couldn't make it that night. I was like, I had a gig and I wanted to go so bad, just to shake his hand. I mean, I've met Tim, and I've had conversations with Tim over the years. And obviously I met Vinny a handful of times, and Vinny was Kevin Dean's drum teacher. So Vinny used to come to a bunch of Brand New Sin shows, and Vinny was just a character, but man, just a true musician in all the sense. And Mr. Owl, God rest his soul, I met him, but I never met Googe, and I never met Chris. But, at some point, my crazy past, I don't know, man. My career is taking turns all the time. I don't know where I'm going to end up half the time. So I'm sure at some point I'm going to cross that dude's path.
This is why we're honored to have you on here, Joe, because we know that your journey is it's just beginning still. I mean,
I always thought, people get in bands and they get signed and then it doesn't work out, and all of them think, well, that was it. It didn't work out. I guess that was our shot, and a lot of people go back to day jobs and stuff like that, or they just dabble in music. But like me, it's just like, I don't want to go back working a day job. I've worked a day job in 22 years. I don't want to go back at this point. And like, and I figured out a way to not do it. But I said to myself, no, that was just a stepping stone to whatever's coming next. And then for a long time, I'm like, well, maybe I'm getting too old. But now with the internet and the way things are now, pop game, I'm never going to be like a Taylor Swift or someone that's, on that level of that big. That's a young person's game. But the music industry is so different now, man. And people become stars in their 60s, So,
yeah.
I got a lot of,
off of one TikTok video.
I was just going to say, nowadays with the influence that you have with TikTok, I'm sure you're monetizing by now, if not a while ago.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
As you grow and more people are recognizing what you're doing, and it's saying, "Hey, it's Joe," blah blah blah.
Right.
That's how half of these reality music contests find who they want to bring on the show.
That's a crazy story. That's how 2 of my opportunities with The Voice and in this other show, I Can See Your Voice on Fox, which was pretty recent in the past year, all found me, is because of things like that. Mm-hmm. Neither of them worked out. The Voice, to make the story very short, they found me doing a Chris Stapleton video on YouTube. And then they flew me down to, well, no, we didn't fly down. We drove down to New York City and to do a private audition, and I was on orders to not talk about these type of auditions. These auditions don't happen, type of, and they want everyone to think that everyone goes through this cattle call to get to the show. Yeah. When in all actuality, a few people get through that. That's the TV smoke and mirrors part, but most of them, they're cherry picking their people. And I went through that whole thing. Todd Stiles actually went with me because I had to bring a guitar player to do one song. Oh, okay. So originally I was going to bring Kevin Farrell with me, and Kevin's like, I can't go that weekend or that day. So I called Todd. I'm like, all right, Todd, you're coming with me. And Todd's like, okay. So Todd, he got to see that whole process. And then I was there for like most of the day going through interviews, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have you on. We'll call you in a couple weeks. A couple weeks later, we'll call you in a couple more weeks. Oh, we're going to send you an email. And then eventually it was like, well, we don't see you fitting into this season's storylines.
Yeah, right.
So, I didn't get on the show. They're like, you're immensely talented. And then I Can See Your Voice, which is a TV show hosted by the guy from the Hangover.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Galifianakis?
No.
What's his name?
He's he's also on Masked Singer. He's one of the
the Oriental guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a comedian.
He hosts that. So they hit me up about a year ago about this time. Hey, we would love you to be on the show. Can we have a phone call? We had a phone call. I'm like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, why not? I'm like, because are you going to make me jump 35 hoops?
Right.
And I've done this before, man. I'm like, and they're like, no, it's different. And that process took like 2 months. Oh. They talked me into it. I'm like, all right, I'm not counting on this. So, and I'm not like holding my breath that this is going to be the thing, but whatever, I'll go along with it. Right. Let's see what happens. And I did that for 2 months. I met with like every producer. I met with the head of the Fox people and all this stuff. And then they're like, all right, block out these weekends. We're going to need you, blah, blah, blah. And then radio silence. And when you get radio silence, this means they're done with you.
Right.
Well, we had Ryan, we had Ryan Quinn on. He was one of our first interviews, and he was telling the same thing. He's like, You go down, you do like 10 interviews, and then next thing you know, then they fly you out to California after that, and then you go through another 2 or 3 auditions, and what do you say? You're like 7 auditions in before you even get the, look at the fresh new face that's walking on out of the cattle call, as you put, and it's all what it is. But
it is. I mean, I did the first one because I was like, well, I don't particularly care for those shows because I know what they are, but I was like, well, screw it. Let's just go down the road and see what happens. I don't have any delusions of grandeur. So I was just like, well, let's just see what happens. And maybe I'll meet somebody and I'll have a story to tell. And I don't know what's going to happen. Just keep doing it. Chris Stapleton said this in an interview once. He's like, someone asked him how he got to where he is. He's like, I don't know. Did that door open and I walked through it? And then that door opened and I walked through it.
Yeah.
And then that door opened, I walked through it. I just kept walking through doors, and here I am,
Right.
So it really resonated with me to the point where I was like, you know what? Unless it's something that just screams like this isn't a good idea, I'm going to do it. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next, and I'm not going to sign my life away. I read through those contracts, and I have a lawyer that reads through those contracts, and none of them were binding me to anything solid.
Right.
To like, oh, wait, we
own you
on those shows, and Ryan will probably tell you this, man, like, then you're like, you can't post about it on socials. You can't talk about it.
No, he told us that exact story.
There's a lot of rules. The boys had me on gag order for like 3.5 months. I couldn't tell anybody.
Well, it's.
And I think Ryan had also hinted too that the reason his didn't work out was because he didn't fit into that, like you said, the storyline of.
Yeah.
Well, he had a little bit of the story because he had Lyme disease, and he was working at a Christian center, and they were like, Christian center, Lyme disease, check. You're not missing any limbs or anything, are you? Well, I'm missing 2 toes, and I'll cut them off tomorrow if that gets me on the show. I mean, what do you want me to do?
Right.
But your story isn't sad enough.
They fabricate shit all the time.
Yeah.
You should actually get. Do you know Sean Smith, Big Sexy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have him on the show. I mean, he was on The Voice as well, and I don't know. I think he might have actually went a little bit further than Ryan, but him and I have had a lot of conversations too about that craziness. But it's part of the biz, and it's kind of cool to see behind the scenes of all that stuff. But me, I'm always into getting back to getting people to recognize me. I've just really been into doing this stuff and doing it on my own merits. I'm not. I haven't done any of this stuff with a manager. I haven't done any of this stuff with, press person or stuff like that. Like when the Limp Bizkit thing happened back in January, and Fred Durst shared my video. I obviously had some big shares before then, but then that's kind of been the game now. It's like, who am I going to poach now? But when that happened and all the news outlets picked it up, right?
Right.
I had somebody reach out to me. I had a local musician reach out to me. I won't name him because I don't want to embarrass him because I love him dearly. And he's like, bro, who did you pay to get all that press? I'm like, nobody. He's like, what? How did you get that? I'm like, dude, I just post a video every day.
Right.
Oh, I just, and it just happens. And I don't know, and that stuff, anything that's happened is organic. I've tried to do everything as organic as freaking possible.
Yeah.
In my career, especially in the past 10 years. And I want things to come to me because I earned it, not because I skipped steps, or paid somebody. I don't want to do that. I mean, that thing that'll happen once you get to a certain level. You have to do certain things, but yeah, no managers, no labels, no nothing. I'm just doing this myself.
So I got to ask you. So with all the TikTok, let's go with TikTok for now. With all the TikTok publicity, okay. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but when you first started doing your rendition of these things, and the one, what was the first one that just people were like, holy shit.
The first one that got me 1 million, the first viral one was the Brown-Eyed Girl in a Minor Key.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the first one, and then it was Skid Row's I Remember You, and then the biggest one was when I did Here I Go Again. by Whitesnake, and that was like almost 4 million at this point.
So Brown Eyed Girl comes in, and you hit it's just going crazy. And I remember when you first put it out, it started growing and growing and growing. And I've considered you a friend for years now, and I I'm watching these TikToks, and then all of a sudden, I don't know much about how that shit works at the time. I'm like, and then so I click on the little record, and then I see all these people lip syncing to Joe's version. and actually like got the headphones on, sitting in front of the microphone, and they're answering questions like, yeah, I worked pretty hard at this one, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, every one of them, fuck you, that's not you, that's a friend of mine, blah, blah, blah. And I think you're like, hey.
Dude, it happens more and more.
Right.
I mean, go ahead with your question. Ask the question.
So I just wanted to, because I remember when I was doing it, and finally I think you sent me something that said, hey, thanks for doing this, thanks for saying what you said. It's tending to be. Yeah. But then you reached out. This one guy was really riding the shit out of it. And you're like, hey, it'd be nice if you gave credit to the guy who actually did it, And I'm like, this has got to still bug him. I mean, when you see people do that, do you sit back now and say, hey, you could do what you want? Or
I laugh at it now. Yeah, but, I mean, it did annoy me at first, but I think people, once they do that deep dive, you can see right through it, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, this is flattery, because people are going to go down the rabbit hole, and they can go down that rabbit hole real quick, and they can find that who the audio is,
right?
So,
but
it just does. I mean,
but these people repost whatever they repost, and they're getting quota relief in a sense to make their 1 million views themselves on shit they didn't, they're just reposting. And I sit back and I'm like, if this guy's getting paid for something that Joe did, that's bullshit.
Give Joe the credit.
They do and they don't, because you have to, in order to get paid by TikTok, you got to be in what's called the creator fund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like if you're just uploading videos and you get millions and millions of stuff, doesn't mean you're in the creator fund. It just means you're getting traction. But then you'll get it. Like if you start getting traction and you start getting all this stuff, then you'll get a notification from TikTok like, hey, you're eligible for the creator fund. Go apply here. Here's the criteria. You've hit all these. You got 10,000 followers. You got 100,000 views in the past 30 days. And there's a couple other things. And you apply for it. And I didn't get it the first couple of times because I only had one viral video. But then I got a couple more viral videos. And then I got into the creator fund. Then when you're in the creator fund, then when you get viral videos and you get paid per play. So like any of that stuff. So then people are grabbing that audio, it will recognize that. So if they're going to get 1 million, I'm going to get paid for that audio because that was my original audio.
Oh, well then, then everybody remember to steal Joe's stuff and post it as your own, please, as many times as you want.
The crazy thing, and there's kind of a dark side to this one side of it that goes with it. It's flattering that people are doing that because every once in a while, like once a week when I'm in there, I'll go and look and see who's sharing my stuff because you can search me and see. And I mean, at this point with Iron Maiden, and I mean, I've had videos, I don't know, dozens of videos that are over 500,000 and other ones that are 100,000. There's a lot. Right. There's a lot of views on it. So like my stuff is always seeping around. But then you see people making fake accounts, and that's the weird thing. It's like they're making, oh, this is my other page to connect with my fans, Yeah. And I get like once a week, like, hey, is this you? And every once in a while, I got to make a post. This isn't me. There's only one TikTok. There's only one Instagram. There's only one, anything like that. But the one thing that got really, and I didn't mind that, it gets annoying. But the one thing that got really weird is there was 2 fake accounts that went up. And the only thing that these people had posted on it was pictures of my daughter. Oh. And that was where I'm like, okay, I don't like this.
Yeah, no. God,
and
no.
I've always been a little weary about posting my daughter on the internet. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm that big of a celebrity. And, in Syracuse, it's fine. But now that there's international attention to me, there's people that are doing that. And I had a talk with my daughter. I'm like, listen, honey, I mean, she's 10. I'm like, I'm going to take pictures of you and stuff like that. But I'm not going And I even told my ex is like, you don't share pictures of your daughter anymore and stuff. Why not? And I showed her these fake profiles that were going up. She's like, oh, I'm like, yeah. I go from now on, I'm not going to, my daughter isn't a part of my social medias anymore, any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I might talk about her, but there ain't going to be pictures because that shit gets fucking weird. And that, dude, your brain goes into 5 million different directions at that point.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I don't want people knowing where she is and what she, I want her to grow up without any of that, So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, not to go down a dark part, but that part got a little weird. And that was when I'm like, and that was like the beginning of this year. I'm like, yeah, my socials are only going to be me from now on,
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep my social life, even, I'll even some of my friendships, my relationship, my girlfriend, all that stuff. I kind of like to keep over here.
Yeah.
Off the
absolutely.
camera. I gotta have a part of that. And that during the COVID, when I was streaming on Twitch and I got big on Twitch, I was sharing a lot. That was like my whole day was like, hey, we did this, we did that. And then I realized, man, I was like, it's one thing to interact with my friends in Syracuse who know me, but then again, I was like, man, things got a little weird. And I'm like, man, I'm sharing way too much of my life. And I don't want people to know all this stuff about me. I need to have some kind of like, again, I'm not a celebrity on any level, but there's still I want some autonomy. Like, I don't want you to know that I went and got ice cream or I went and did this and where I'm at all the time. You can find me 6 days a week at some gig. That's probably you pretty much know where I am anyways.
Right. We find that
give me this 5%.
Right.
Joe is only famous from his house to Walmart.
That's what Tim Moyer was telling us yesterday. His daughter says, Dad, you're only famous from the house
to Walmart.
No, to no, it was
from the house to Walmart.
It's not. He corrected himself. Hannaford.
Oh well, yeah. Sorry.
You're only famous from the house to Hannaford. He's like, geez, you could at least give me the gas station and give me a couple extra miles. But what we're finding is that we're booking a lot of national artists right now. And for the rest,
you're gonna have my friend Jason on soon.
Yes.
Next week,
Jason
actually.
Charles Miller. He was excited to
excited
know
to
that
find
we
out
knew
that
you.
you.
Yeah, he was like, oh, yeah, I love Joe. We were on tour together years ago and this and that. And
yeah, I just saw him a couple weeks ago. He was opening for Faster Pussycat out at Kegs.
Yeah,
I got to see him. And like we always try to get together, and our schedule is so busy. And we're like, dude, we got our phone call. We always talk about this phone call that we're supposed to have.
We talked to him the other day, and we were on the phone for like 45 minutes. They said, see, we could have just recorded this.
That's right.
But
he wants to do it right,
Yeah.
So.
But what we found is that a lot of the people that we've contacted through, however, then they come back with, use this account through Facebook or wherever. That's really me.
Yeah.
That other one's just for the fans, and then this is my personal one. And then you get friended, and you're going, hey, this is pretty cool. Unless you ass dial Billy Sheehan six times like I did.
Yeah.
And he was at a gig in Costa Rica, and it's like, dude, stop fucking calling me. So felt like a little bit of a dick that day. But, we straightened that mess out, and he's going to be on the show. But, yeah. So that's sometimes where it's a downfall to have their personal stuff,
Yeah, I mean, it is. And, I mean, again, I don't compare myself to some of these bigger people, but the internet can be a pretty weird – it can be an amazing place, but it all can get super weird and super scary. So it's just about my music and my stuff now. And once in a while, I'll post some personal stuff, but it's it's all in different thing, but especially with, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
Do you want an exclusive scoop that no one else knows about?
Yeah. No one's listening.
Right.
Shh.
Well, I mean, it's going to be announced. I don't know. Is this airing now?
It's going to air tonight.
It'll air tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this Friday at noon. So anybody who watches this tonight is going to get. I just confirmed everything. I'm going and doing my first very solo tour of the UK in February.
Oh, very cool, man. Congratulations.
You heard it here first
Yes.
on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Suck it, Rick.
Yeah, I've been working with this for a few weeks. I mean, I went and did the solo tour last year, opening for Halocene
Yep.
and a couple other big YouTubers and TikTokers and stuff like that, which is like, this is what the music business is now. But because of all these things, I've met a lot of people, and this all came about in the UK through my friend Ryan, who's the singer. He's the singer in a band called Soil, and he's also he was a singer in Drowning Pool, but now he's a singer in Drowning Pool again.
Nice.
So Ryan and I have known each other for 20 years, man. They were big fans of Brand New Sin. We did a lot of stuff with their ex-band. So he lives in England now, and he married a girl from England. He lives over there. Before he got the gig back at Drowning Pool, he's like, hey, I'm starting this, booking company over here with a couple of people. I play in a solo band over here. I think there'd be interest in you coming over here because of what's going on. Give me your press kit. And I had this press kit put together because I got some other big people that are shopping stuff around, which I don't want to jinx any of that stuff yet. But
right.
No.
So I put this thing together, and I'm like, man, I'm like, people want to come see me. He's like, yeah, man, we could do these pubs, these smaller pubs and these things. People still remember you from Brand New Sin. And he goes, dude, you forget that like millions of people are fans of your voice because of wrestling. And like, we have this massive wrestling thing over here, and people say they can meet the singer of the Big Show's theme song.
Right.
This might get us. I'm like, dude, I don't fucking believe you for 1 second, but here you go. Let's see what happens. Ryan gets the gig in Drowning Pool, but then his bass player from his solo band hits me up, and he's like, where are we with this? I'm like, I know Ryan kind of left it wide open, and I don't know when he's going to get back to it. And he's like, well, I took over the company. I'm doing this whole new style of company. What do you need for money? Let's start this. And we talked about it, and I didn't hear from him for a week. I'm like, he's going to be like, yeah, I'm not getting really any interest. And we came up with a time frame in February 1st to February 18th, 2.5 weeks or a little over 2 weeks. And he comes back, and he's like, the first week, he's like, I got 8 confirmed shows and contracts. I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, this could happen?
Right.
Yeah. So then a couple of days later, he's got 3 more. I got 3 more, and we're at, I think we got 14 confirmed shows, and we're just waiting on a couple others, and then we'll have a couple of days off. But we're going to announce it on Friday and probably confirm a couple others. But the Vulgar Display of Piano UK tour is going to happen in February. And the money makes sense because, like, I won't go out on the road just to say, oh, I'm going on tour and go into debt. I can't do that anymore. I have a house to pay for. I have a daughter. I can't do that stuff anymore. So financially, everything made sense, and it's I'm gonna make money. Marty in the Black. That's before merch sales. It's before the other stuff I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do T-shirt packages for like a tour support thing, and I'm going to do a show probably in January to send me off. But yeah,
Jeff,
dude, that's awesome.
Jeff and I will get you our T-shirt sizes so that we can wear it on our show.
Yeah. I'm gonna. I actually got to make a phone call tonight to a friend of mine who's an artist out in Seattle. She's going to design the shirt, and I'm going to have these packages that help. Before I did a GoFundMe this time, it's like, hey, there's a T-shirt, there's a gold, there's a platinum and a bronze level, and all these come with different perks, and all that money's going to go towards helping, getting me the merch over there, getting my plane tickets, all that other stuff, and then a big show. So everything's going to be fantastic, which I hope 2024 leads into a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, and some of these places book me solely on the fact they're like, that's the guy that sings the Big Show's theme song? Yes, we'll book it. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right.
Okay.
Dude, that's awesome. I know Amanda Ashley from out in Rochester. Do you know Amanda? She's a solo
I know her name. I don't think I've ever met her, though.
So she, years ago, she used to play at Big Papa's, okay, and at my bar.
She played piano?
Yes. Wears a flower in her hair.
With curly, yes.
Yes.
I know exactly. I know her, yes. I haven't talked to her in years, but yes,
right.
I do remember. Go
so
ahead.
She, if I remember correctly, I forgot how it went, but she found that she wanted to go to England, and she booked shows that paid her way through England, and it was kind of like pay to stay, I'll tell you, or play to stay type of, not making a ton of money, but she stayed over there as long as she wanted by just booking more gigs and more gigs. That they love an American artist to play. It's something a little different.
Do. I mean, when we went over there, Europe in general, including the UK, it's a different world when it comes to loving music over there and the fans. And I mean, we're assholes. Americans, let's just admit it. We're very cynical. And we're very I don't know, we poo-poo on shit all the time.
Right.
Oh, that's not cool. This is cool. That's cool. It's like, they don't give a fuck over there. They just they love good music. And the first time we ever went over there with Brand New Sin and we toured the UK, we just nobody knew who we were, but we went out on stage every night opening. We were the second band on a 4-band bill, and we were outselling the headliner some nights with our merchandise. We blew up. And unfortunately, it was right at the end before our band imploded and before I left the band. But we made money on that tour. We had a headlining tour booked to go back. It was like, things happen so much faster. Like over here in the States, you grind. No one cares. You're cool for a minute. Oh, you're not cool anymore. Oh, fuck that guy, And that's not the case over there. Their loyalty and their fanship, I guess if that's a word, is so much different than it is here, man.
Yeah.
And I think they just appreciate it so much more. And I mean, I think that's evident especially when it comes to hard rock and metal.
Yeah, well,
for sure.
We've got Ross the Boss coming up 2 weeks.
He'll tell you, absolutely.
Yeah, Manowar, holy Christ, man. They're just crushing over there. But have you done Japan?
No, that was that's a funny thing, because the guy that's doing all that stuff over there, and he's like, I think Japan's going to be a big market for you too. I'm like, what? He's like, dude, they love American piano players, and they love when you do different shit.
Right.
Like you're taking all these metal songs and turning them on their heads. And that's when I go out on this tour in the UK, that's what's going to be the focus. Well, is all the metal stuff that I got.
Well, when I went to college, we talked a lot about, I went for broadcast journalism, but we talked about marketing. And one of the things about Japan is that it's a monolithic society. There's one type of people. Even though the whole country. So if something is on the East Coast and it's a fad, it's going to be a fad on the West Coast, North and South within days. And that's why everything spreads instantly over there.
Yeah, I mean, that was what the guy said, and he's like, I think Japan's going to be a big market for you at some point. So it's like, man, I could try to beat the circuit up around here, but I'm going to go out and do that. And I did really well last summer. It was crazy, and it was scary because going up on stage with a full band in front of a packed club, like 300, 400, 500 people, you feel like, all right, I got my brothers with me. Let's go. Even the music, you're up there as a team. I was getting up on stage by myself with just a piano.
Yeah.
Opening for one of the biggest YouTube bands out there, big, huge TikTok band. And they're just looking at me. Yeah. And I'm getting up there with a beer and looking the way I do. And I sit down. I'm like, what's up? And I just start playing Tool sober. And everyone's like, holy shit, and I have a meeting out of my hand by the end of the set. I had a 30-minute set, which is nothing to me. I'm used to playing 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I only got to play 30 minutes? What? That's fucking nothing.
What am I doing the rest of the day?
Yeah, what am I doing now? What do I do now? I guess I'll drink some beers. So, but it really showed, it was nerve-wracking, but also showed me, like, I had the ability. I mean, I know I have the ability to do it here in Syracuse, but, like, it's different when you're going out and you got to prove yourself in a city in front of 400 people who've never seen you before.
Yep.
That is, and I didn't have anybody except for me up there. So if I fucking made a mistake, you're gonna hear it.
Yeah, you are.
Like if I,
you
sometimes like you got people making mistakes around you and they cover it up, or people looking at everything. It's just me, and I'm like, okay. So
speaking of mistakes,
it's.
Oh, no.
Speaking of mistakes, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you said the word mistake. I want to know the biggest. Now, in all the years you've been doing this, whether it was Brand New Sin, whether it was just you, what I want to know the biggest, like, holy shit fuck up that no one knew happened, but man, you were like,
but Joe did.
Can't believe that just happened,
Oh, wow.
Everybody has the same reaction. They're like,
Really?
shit, didn't think that was going to be
I've
asked.
never asked that. I've never had that question asked before. Shit.
Well, I mean, there's embarrassing shit that's happened on stage.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great.
But mistake-wise, I mean...
Or embarrassing.
Or, yeah, either
biggest
one.
blooper, or
Well,
could make the gag reel.
Well, I mean, two come to mind, but I'm trying to think of mistake. I mean, obviously, there's been times I've sang the wrong lyrics.
Right.
Well, Mike does it all the time.
That's how I make it my own.
Right. I've sang, and when people are trying to sing along, it's a little, hey, it's a live version or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Especially when it's in your own song. It's like, fuck, I wrote it. I can do whatever I want with it.
That's right. That's right.
This is the version I wrote before the producer changed it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything that was an incredibly mistake. But I've had two embarrassing things that happened. One happened in Calgary. We were on tour with a band called Fu Manchu's summer of 2002. So, 21 years ago. So, and we were up there, and that day the Calgary Stampede was happening. It was right around this time of year. It was like middle of July. So there was a lot of people in town. So we played, and this place was packed. And I go like in the first song, and Brand New Sin, I always have my foot up like on the monitor.
Remember that.
I still do that to this day. One, because I kind of did it, but really because a lot of those times we played shows and we were the opening band. We had no fucking room on the stage, and that was the only place I had.
Right,
was
right.
To stand on top of the monitor, right? And so, like, it became my thing, not because it was like I want to do it. It's because out of necessity. So I remember hitting that first song, and it's packed house. I don't know, full club, and I'm singing. I got my foot up on the monitor, and I'm like, man, that feels a little drafty.
Oh shit!
Feeling a little drafty right now, but and I didn't have any underwear on that day. Like, I had ran out of underwear, and like in those days, I didn't wash the underwear. I would buy a package of underwear at Walmart once a week.
Right, throw them away.
Underwear and just throw them out.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm gonna do laundry again. So I had no underwear on. So anyone that was in that any proximity, they were seeing it all.
Nice.
And I didn't look down because I was in performing, and finally they came to the guitar solo. I turned around, I looked down, I'm like, oh my fucking God. Like, what am I gonna do? So
there's little Joe hanging out.
There's Just Joe.
There's just so I remember we got some gaff tape and like kind of pulled it together. And then the other time was Albuquerque, New Mexico, on the same tour. That was a long tour. It was like 6 weeks. And we didn't have much to eat that day, but we got there and we're like, the club says they're feeding us tonight. All right, cool. At least we'll get to eat today, because I don't think any of us had any money at that time. So we get there and they had all this pizza laid out, and it's Albuquerque. Ain't fucking that pizza stuffed, right? But
right.
It was
Tex-Mex.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's New York, Jersey, Connecticut, Chicago. Other than that, pizza sucks.
Right.
In my opinion. There's a few places in there, but they have pizza. So like, well, this is it, or I'm not going to eat anything. So I ate a lot of it, and I ate too much. And then we started like, oh, here's your case of beer before the show. So drinking these beers. And I got on stage, and it was incredibly warm. And I could feel the beer and the pizza like foaming.
Oh,
and I could feel the foam from the beer, the pizza like right here. And I'm like, I didn't feel like I was going to throw up. I didn't have that feeling. But then I went for one of those big notes in Brand New Sin. I was like, ah! And it went, yeah, like it's a projectile. And luckily I was looking this way and not straight at the crowd. I was kind of looking at my bass player, Chuck. And it just all landed in front of him, and the splat, like people are like, oh, come standing back. And I just kept going. I just wiped the spit, and I kept going. I didn't throw up, and it was just literally, I was full.
Oh,
I was
dude.
foam. It was all foam and like chunks of really horrible Albuquerque, New Mexico
it's
pizza. So
fucking hilarious.
I'm going to have to think of that mistakes. If I come up with one, I'll send you a video telling the story. But I can't think of anything that was super glaring that I've done. I mean, I've fucked up and playing Just Joe shows and shit like that.
Yeah.
But nothing,
So we had Kevin Dean on, and Kevin's telling,
Yeah.
and he says two of his biggest stage blunders was K-Rockathon, I think it was.
That was one, yep.
And he lost the stick, and it went out and whacked the girl in the head. And then they came back for the signing, and the guy goes, "See this stick?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then she like lifted up her scarf and goes, "See this goose egg on my head?" And he's like, "Oh fuck!" And she's like, "Best day of my life."
We have video of that.
And then he was also talking about something to do with the microphone. And he said, "If Joe is on here, just say to Joe."
Oh my fucking God! Yes, you're in England, okay?
Here it is.
And I got pictures of that night, and it wasn't Norwich. I'll remember what city it was in a little while. But that night, like, there's a picture of me, and I'll dig that picture up. But I'm like, there was great pictures, but I'm fucking so pissed off for that picture. And it wasn't because of like, we're in the, like, I was just pissed because there was so much fucking feedback on my microphone. And I'm looking at the monitor guy, and the monitor guy's like, "I don't fucking know what's going on." And we had our front of house guy that was mixing us in front of house. And I'm like, "Jeff, what the fuck?" You know, I'm like, he's out there, and he's like, and every song, he's like, "Dude, I don't fucking know." Like, no one knew what the fuck it was. It's because Kevin did. What the fuck did he exactly do?
He said he took one of the drum mics off and set it on the floor.
He set it on the He took because he was playing somebody else's kit.
Yes.
And instead of a 5-piece, he only needed to be 4. So he took the one mic off the tom and just set it down, and it was reverbing off his bass drum. And he realized it after, and he was like, "Oh fuck," because he says, Joe turned around. He's like, "Fucking fix it!" You know, he's like, "What the fuck?"
Like, I was so pissed because they had to keep pulling my stuff out of the monitor, and then I couldn't fucking hear myself, and it's feeding back out front, and like people are going like this, and I'm like, "What the?" I'm like, "We're fucking bombing the show." And then I don't even know if he told me that night. I think it was like a couple of days later. We were at a pub on like a day off. He's like, "Dude, I got to confess something." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Remember the other night with all that feedback?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, told me. I'm like, "You motherfucker." He's like, I realized it. I realized it, but then we couldn't do anything. Like, I'm like, "I get it, man." But, oh yeah. That picture came up on Facebook not that long ago. And then he commented underneath it like, "Dude, I'm sorry," a million times. Like he's like so apologetic still to this day.
But it was funny because he goes, "All you got to do is just say to Joe, remember that time that Kevin," and you picked it up before we even finished the set, so that just validated and made it fucking awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what club that was. Usually I have a photographic memory of like everywhere we played. But that was like the only time we toured in England, so it's tough for me to remember exactly what it was. Might have been no, it wasn't Norwich because that was played in Norwich on the river. It wasn't Nottingham. It was early on in the tour. It's like first couple. I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
it'll come to me. But yeah,
that's
not
awesome.
That it's even relevant. But
well, it validated his story completely,
really
especially just seeing that reaction when we saw it on your face just now as your brain processed. You're like, "Motherfucker." You know? Like, that's the guy who killed my cat.
Yeah, exactly.
That was horrible. Usually the sound guys can figure that out, but they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out what microphone it was. Yeah.
Right.
Because we're all sharing backline on that tour because, we couldn't bring our cabinets.
Right.
And drums and all that. It would cost too much. Plus over there, the electricity is different. So then you got to be careful if you do bring a cabinet.
Right.
And even you use a converter can blow up your fucking head and all this shit.
Yeah.
What you've got your typical question. I'm sure you're going to ask it.
Sure, why not? So out of all the tours and everything you've done in this entire career of yours, what is your who is the one person you've met that you're like, "Holy shit, I'm standing in front of this person"?
Yeah, your biggest
fanboy moment. I hate the word fanboy. So
I've had a few. I've met Ozzy. I've toured with Zach. Let's remove the people that I've toured with because then eventually I became friends with them. Even Lemmy, and there was a holy shit moment when we got to know Lemmy. But then we became friends with Lemmy. Like anytime Lemmy would see me, we'd sit down and shoot the shit. And he loved us, so it became different. But this one might surprise you. But when we played K-Rockathon in 2007, I was incredibly excited, not only for the show, but Social Distortion was playing the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a fucking huge Social Distortion fan. I have been for years and years. And Mike Ness is like one of my favorite songwriters and lyricists and all that stuff. And we were sharing the stage. They were playing K-Rockathon that day, which I thought was cool. But I'm like, these fucking people don't know how cool this fucking band is,
Right.
Like, I even went to Buffalo the night before to see them, even though I had the biggest show I left the next day. I'm like, I got tickets to see Social D. I'm going to Buffalo.
Right.
But the next day, we had played, and Social D was playing a little bit later on. And I was just sitting backstage drinking beers, and Rain Man from K-Rock comes over to me, and he's like, hey, I'm going to interview Mike Ness in a little while. I'm like, all right, that's cool, And he's like, do you want to come sit in the trailer when I interview him? I'm like, is that cool? Is he going to be cool with that? He's like, yeah. And then we're walking over, and we get in there, we're sitting there, and like 2 minutes before he gets a phone call, all right, Mike's on his way over. He's like, actually, you're interviewing him. I'm like, what? And I don't get starstruck I don't very often,
mm-hmm.
just because it's weird. It's when people do it to me, sometimes I feel super awkward,
Yeah.
It's just me, blah, blah, blah. So he comes in the trailer, and I'm just like, and my girlfriend at the time was probably even a bigger Social Distortion fan than I was. So she's sitting there, and we're both like, and he sits down, and Mike is like the epitome of fucking cool. Like, if you look up cool in the dictionary, there's a picture of Mike Ness. It's just his vibe, the way he holds himself, everything about him is just cool, at least the way I look at him. So we sits down, and like Rayman gives him a microphone, and he's like, you got some questions? I'm like, yeah. And Rayman's, well, here's some questions if you get stuck. So I remember the interview starts, Rayman goes, hey, we're, in the K-Rock trailer, we're here with Mike Ness. They're about to go on stage here in a little while with Social Distortion. We have a special guest, Joe Altier from Brand New Sin, is going to interview him. And Joe, take it away. And Mike's looking at me just, like this. And I swear to God, I went, I don't know what the fuck I said. And I don't think it made any sense, because Mike's looking at me, and Rain Man's looking at me, and my girlfriend's looking at me. And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. And then I'm starting to have a panic attack. And something brought me into it. And then I got into the interview. But I was so like just enamored and awestruck and starstruck by Mike. And he probably thought I was an idiot. I'm like, this guy thinks I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I played earlier. Did you hear my band?
No, really, they liked me.
I swear to God.
Do you like me? Did you hear So
we could be best friends.
But then we got a picture. Yeah, and we could be best friends, I think. So he was incredibly cool. But like, man, it's so weird, because everyone would think when I met Ozzy or Lemmy or Slash or Lars or any of those people that I've met over the years and hung out with, and you would think that. But I kind of met them on the level, but this was a completely different thing. Meeting Ozzy was pretty starstruck. It was just weird, because you felt like you were going up, and Zach introduced us. It was backstage in an Ozfest. He goes, you want to meet Oz? You want to meet Oz? I'm like, yeah, go over and hi, Oz. And he says, and he just went back to jumping rope before the show. So that was pretty cool. But like, as we're walking by, like Tony Iommi walked in front of us, and I was like, holy shit, there's Tony Iommi. Like,
right.
There's moments like that. I'm like, dude, how did I get here? How did I get here?
Yeah. Right.
Well,
I'm no one's kicking me out, no one's like, hey, what are you doing back here? Like, no, you're on the level, and that's pretty cool. I mean, I like that. And, even last week I played at Turning Stone, and my really good friend is the front of house and tour manager for Queensryche.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And they were playing, and I didn't get to see the show because I was up in a steakhouse, but I went down afterwards and hung out. And a couple months ago, Todd, the singer, the now singer of Queensryche, chimed in on my cover of Eyes of a Stranger. He's like, man, that was really good. Good choice, and blah, blah, blah. So then I'm sitting there talking, I'm meeting Todd, I'm meeting the guys from Queensryche. And Todd keeps looking at me like that. And he goes, hey, he goes, wait a minute. He goes, Andrew told me about, he goes, you're that guy. You're that guy. So then we immediately, like started talking and becoming buddies, so it was pretty cool.
That's
I
cool.
have a pretty cool life sometimes,
Yeah, you do.
I work a lot, but
it's funny because growing up with the Lost Horizon in our backyard, a lot of those artists before they were anybody were there. Me growing up and seeing Guns N' Roses as a nobody, Lita Ford playing at the Lost. Shit.
Yeah.
Gee,
You think about
Bon Jovi 3 or 4 times.
Name 'em.
They all played there.
You think about before they became Blue Oyster Cult, Fat White Underbelly.
Yeah, they played the Lost. Well, they played the Lost as Blue Oyster Cult and had nobody show up.
Right.
They did that as they did that. Scott Sterling's got a great story about that. You got to get Scott on.
He has been on.
But dude, that dude has more stories than anybody because he was there. He was the fucking sound guy for all those years. So he got all that stuff. He booked the room. So, but he talked. I had him on when I was doing my podcast. We got talking about it, and he brought that. And he's like, yeah, because we had Blue Oyster Cult come in, want to do a secret show, but we couldn't advertise as Blue Oyster Cult. We did it as, what was it?
Fat White Underbelly.
Some Underbelly?
Fat White Underbelly, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, we had them there at their peak and shit like that. So he goes, yeah, it's.
Well, I like that
when what happened in that little corner of Thompson and Erie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he told the story about when John Entwistle had just got his gear brought over.
Yeah.
And he was testing out some new gear, like some prototype.
It was a new bass or some sort of prototype.
And then he looks over and he goes, Scott, what do you think? And he's like,
wait a minute.
He did the same thing. He goes, I went to say, sounds great. And he goes, he's like, John Entwistle's talking to me and he knows my name.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Scott's got some of the best stories.
Oh.
And Greg Italiano I miss that man so much. I really wish before Greg had passed that someone had gotten to sit down and pulled the stories out of that guy's head. Because Scott was there for a time, but Greg was there the entire time.
Yeah.
Greg had all the stories. And that was my favorite thing when I left Brand New Sin and Greg approached me about coming to work at the Lost and help open the Lost again and book the room. And I did that for, well over a year. My favorite parts of that were the nights that were kind of slow. And I would go over and sit with Greg, and everybody you remember you walk in and Greg was right
there.
Yeah.
Counting the money.
Stool. Just looking at the door, watching the bar, fucking watching everything.
Freaking out, slapping that money pad. Yep.
Yeah. And I liked, those are some of my favorite times is just sitting there talking to Greg because Greg had every story. He had them all.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that, before all this technology happened, that someone didn't get a chance to sit down and extract a lot of that stuff. Scott and Dave Rezick and Chuck Chao, collectively, the three of them could do all of that, but they'll always say that, like, man, Greg had all of them because we weren't there the whole time. Greg was there the entire time. Right. But there are, his nephew John, wwho runs it now, has all those old calendars.
Yeah.
That Greg had.
Dude.
And it was really cool to look through those calendars. Like, here's 1984's calendar. You're looking and what crazy there was. I can't remember what month it was, but it was like every Friday and Saturday, the first Friday and the first Saturday of every month was, unless there was a national act. Don't quote me on this, but I think Friday night was the Paul Case Band.
Mm-hmm.
God rest in peace, Paul Case. Paul Case just passed a couple days ago.
Yep.
It was the Paul Case Band on Friday night, and on Saturday night was Atlas Linen.
Yes.
And God bless George.
Yep.
And, so that was their thing. And it was looking at how much they got paid, because underneath that in Greg's
400
squiggly writing was, no.
Less.
They were getting paid like 12.
Oh, really?
1,500 fucking dollars.
Jesus Christ, that's more than he paid some.
It's like 1984.
That's more than he paid some of the national bands.
That's what I'm getting at. So then you go down the calendar and you're like, the Ramones, Warlock. You're seeing all these Misfits. You see all these national acts, and the national the Ramones are getting $400.
Yeah.
I'm like, fucking Atlas Linen just got $1,500 fucking dollars, And I remember saying to John, I'm like, why do you think he did that? And we found this stuff after Greg died. And when they were going through his apartment or his place or his house or whatever, and they were finding all this old shit because Greg never threw anything out, right?
No.
So they're like, well, they probably did better bar than the Ramones. He had no idea what the Ramones were going to do, and that's what the agent did. But, that was what the agent booked him at.
Well, you figure.
But that was crazy to me because, $1,500 for Paul Case on a Friday night in 1984. If you do the inflation on that, I did it one time. That'd be like getting $4,000 right now.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck's getting no cover, no band is getting $4,000 to play the Lost Horizon, a local band, nobody.
I actually started thinking about. I was cleaning out some stuff here, and when Greg passed away, we all went over after the wake. I mean, I grew up in that bar, so
everybody went over to the Lost.
We went to the Lost, and Patty Gagne was passing out little color photos of Greg, and 3 days ago, it's right in my other room is Greg's picture from his wake and funeral, and I said I ought to take that and hang that right up here. Yeah, and for people who don't know who it is, they don't. But I think I'm going to because what he did for this city's music. We had one of the best music scenes in all of upstate New York, and that means going all the way to White Plains and all the way to Buffalo. We were right in the center. Yeah. That bar, those bands would play Buffalo on their way to play New York City or Albany. They'd stop here in the middle of a tour just to pick up another night and pick up some money or whatever,
Yeah.
And like I said, I saw Bon Jovi there 3 or 4 times, and Lita Ford, Kid Rock, and it was ridiculous. Yeah. It was ridiculous. And the wall signed in the back in the dressing room.
God.
That
has to be preserved somehow.
Well,
it's been for the most part it is, but when they remodeled it and it became like club, it was like 32 degrees for a hot second, and then it became Club Tundra, right?
Yeah.
They did some different stuff back there, and a lot of that kind of got ripped apart, but there's still some of that stuff on there. But the history of from 2003 to now there's still a lot up on there,
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I mean, but that club, who knows what the fate of the club will be in the future, but I mean, it's still there. I mean, CBGB's ain't there anymore. Penny Arcade ain't there anymore. The Haunt isn't there anymore.
No, the Haunt's gone.
Saratoga Winners. You start thinking all these legendary clubs that are around upstate New York.
Yeah.
None of them are there. Lost Horizon's still there.
Yeah.
Still there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of competition happening right now in this town. There's a lot of clubs now. There's the Song and Dance. Things have changed. There's a lot of things that changed, but it doesn't take away the fact of that legendary place. And then, that place has more history than just it being the Yellow Balloon and the Lost Horizon.
Right.
I mean, that place was a bar when there was a fucking canal there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Italianos have owned it back then.
Probably.
I mean,
John's
John's grandfather.
Bought it in old man Italiano bought it in 68 or 69 from Wanda.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because it was Wanda. It was Wanda's the very brief history before we have to. I got to bounce here in a few minutes, but the brief history is that it was a bar when Hudson Drive was the pull off for there was a market there for the boulevard. There was a trading market. Mm-hmm. All that stuff. So Hudson was all that stuff. And the Lost Horizon was just like a house, but that was a bar. And it was a bar right up, and then Prohibition came and it closed and it just became a house. And then after Prohibition, then it became, I think it was a residence for a little while. And then this woman, Wanda, bought it. Her family bought it, and it was Wanda's, and that was Lemoyne College's bar forever. I want to say the late 40s. It might be the 50s. But it was probably the late 40s all the way through until the Italianos bought it in the late 60s. It was Wanda's. Mm-hmm. And it was just like the bar. It was like you walk in And where the bar is, there was a wall behind the bar all the way down to the end of the bar. And where the women's room was, that was the wall, like where the pool table and the merch go now.
Yep. Yeah.
That didn't exist yet. That was not there yet. So that was it. It was just that very small area that was Wanda's. And a lot of blues bands, Scott Sterling will tell you that I was a stop for the blues bands in the circuit of the 50s and 60s. Yeah. A lot of blues bands played there. But then when they bought it, they turned into Yellow Balloon and they blew out that one wall up to where the pool table is.
Yeah.
And that was the Yellow Balloon. And it didn't become the Lost Horizon until 75, 74.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was when they blew everything out. They built it and it became a disco. It was a disco.
Right.
They didn't do bands. They didn't do bands until, 81.
Yeah.
1980.
And the most
is when they started doing the bands.
The most iconic thing was the pole in the middle of the stage.
Yeah.
Back in the mid 80s.
I'll close with a story about that pole. But the first big show that they ever did at the Lost Horizon was the Stray Cats. And I have pictures of that somewhere because Greg gave me some pictures of it.
That's awesome.
That was the first real big show they ever got. They started doing music because disco was dying and no one was doing disco. Let's do a live music venue. And they were doing some shows, but the Stray Cats came there. And it was right when the Stray Cats were getting huge on MTV.
Yeah.
Stray Cat Strut and Rock This Town. And they played there. And it was Greg's there was probably 800 or 900 people in here. It was just uncomfortable. It's hot as fuck.
Yep.
And that put it on the map. But that pole was there. So this story I'll close with. So we are in Tampa or St. Pete playing a club down there in summer of 05 around on tour with band called Scum of the Earth, which is Riggs, who was the guitar player in Rob Zombie, and now he's back in Rob Zombie.
Right.
So we're up on tour with them, and the guy that was tour managing them was friends with this guy named John Oliva. So John Oliva is the singer, founder of Sabotage. And obviously the godfather of Trans-Siberian Orchestra to this day. So me being a massive Sabotage fan, I'm like, man, have John come out to the show. And he's like, actually, he's going to come out to the show. And John came out to the show that night, and we were sitting in the dressing room. John come in, super fucking nice guy. And I kind of fanboyed because I know Sabotage is just one of those bands I got into that none of my other friends got into. They didn't get it. They're like, what the fuck is
exactly
metal? But it was way different, But I loved it. And we're sitting there talking. And then he goes, wait a minute. He goes, where did you say you were from? I'm like, from Syracuse, New York. He's like, Lost Horizon. I'm like, yeah. He goes, the fucking pole. And we had a lot of musicians over the years, tons of musicians that we toured with. And we'd say that, and they would all say the Lost Horizon and that fucking pole. But John's story was the best. He's like, yeah, Sabotage played there all day. He's like, this pole. And he goes, it was right where I'm supposed to stand, where the singer's supposed to be. It was so awkward. So he goes, I remind myself of that. We do sound check. You get used to it. Whatever. It's a club. So he goes, I'm on the bus, and the band goes into the intro, and we got all these fog machines going.
Oh, no.
So I come off the bus. I come open the door. Tour manager's like, he's like, hands me my microphone. And he goes, I go running out into the stage where I thought my microphone, where the mic stand was, and I couldn't see anything. Yeah. And I just went, he fucking ran full speed into the fucking pole. Dude, knocked him out.
Yep.
Cold. Boom. Laying there. And then he said the band is playing. It's like he's supposed to be singing, and I guess, the band's looking around like, where the fuck is he? And the bass player, all of a sudden, because there's so much fog, they trip over John, and John's just fucking laying there like, just coming to, and the band keeps playing. The tour manager brings him water, and he's like, I stood up, and he goes, I will never forget that pole, because I ran so hard. He goes, I've never run into something so hard in my fucking life.
That's awesome.
I think I might have been there that night. I was there every weekend.
There,
and I remember somebody whacking that hard, and they were still relatively
it was John
new.
Oliva.
That's awesome.
Didn't we try? Aren't
John
we trying to book
Oliva,
him?
And we laughed for the rest of the night because of that. So,
Joe, thank you so much.
Yeah, dude.
No, anytime. I mean, I'll time willing, if over the winter things slow down, but I don't fucking know what's happening. But I gave you the scoop. You guys got the scoop.
We
tonight,
do, man.
So,
we do.
so what
Who
we'd
knows
like to
what's gonna
do
happen?
when you're gonna about play the show, the next reunion in December.
Yeah.
Let's see if see if we can get you on right before that, and let you at least promote it.
I would love to. I would love to do that because I would love to talk about Brand New Sin because we didn't really get a chance to talk about the craziness
absolutely.
of that, and it's and that band just means so much to all of us.
Yes.
You know, and I mean for us to be like it's 21 years and
Maybe
that's gonna be a fun show.
Maybe we get it. Maybe we get together beforehand and have the whole band sit in panel style, and we interview and talk to you guys all, and tell
possibly
some stories.
trying to get us all together for rehearsals is going to be hard enough,
right?
So we might have to. Well, I'll have to wrangle that, but I would love to, man.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you,
dude.
No,
it's a pleasure and definitely worth the wait.
Yeah.
You know, and anything you ever want to do or want us to promote, please don't hesitate.
Let us know. We'll do whatever we can.
Yeah. Just call Just Us.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
I will, man.
Thanks,
Take care,
brother.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you.
See ya.
Bye.
Look at that.
How about that?
Just Joe.
Just a scoop.
Just the scoop. Not on anybody else's podcast
No,
right
sir.
there, mother bitches. Huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How about that?
Pretty happy about that.
Why wouldn't you be?
Dude, are you kidding me? That's
You know,
phenomenal.
that was great.
Yeah.
Good times.
You know, I know we mention it on every show, but Ock Medical Supply, Sharky's
Event Center, DJ Life's the Beach.
Good Nature,
Uncle Jimmy's Live Local Music, the Print Shop Underground.
Yeah.
Snarky Productions
Toffee
and
Break
Toffee
Toffee.
Break Toffee.
We mentioned them, even though we already mentioned them this week. They just
That's
got a
okay.
freebie.
They get it another one.
They got a freebie.
And December 2nd, start the music, bro.
No, I got 40 seconds on this one, and you're long-winded as fuck.
No, I'm not going to be.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Uh-huh. Oh, there it is. December 2nd
Yeah.
at the Westcott Theater.
Yeah.
Brand New Sin.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really a reunion show like Joe said, but
Hey, it
get
is
out
what
there
it is.
and see it because you never know. That could be the last time. And big scoop. We
Big
got
scoop.
it right here.
Yeah.
Vulgar display of piano.
You've been listening to The Good, the band.
And the ugly.
I'm Big Papa.
I'm Jeff.
We'll see you soon.
See ya.